Hello again, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another episode of Anime Analysis with me, once again, your host, that geek with glasses. Today, ladies and germs, we've got a great one coming for you, because today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite shows in the past few years, My Hero Academia, or as it's known in Japan, Boku no Hero Academia. How can I not love this show, and how can I not talk about it so often? It's got great characters, great settings, great situations, great stories. It's just great all around. Okay, there are a few negatives to it, but the good easily outweighs the bad. So, the show, to set up, for those of you who haven't watched, I was just about to fire in, but I was like, well, there might be a few unversed out there. So, the show follows Izuku Midoriya, a young boy who was born without a power, or as they're called in universe, quirks. However, he runs into the show's main hero, named All Might, and he is given the power of One for All, which is, it's like Superman minus the laser vision. He also can't fly. He can jump far distances, but can't fly. Technicalities. Alright, well, look, regardless. So, I will admit, the first season, it's a little slow. However, things pick up in the second season, and things really get rolling with the second half, the second season. Weird, I know. But it's the introduction of a character called Hero Killer Stain. He's the main villain of the second season. Now, with a name like Hero Killer, you think, okay, he's 100% evil. He's just the worst. He's terrible. And, he kills heroes. That makes him bad. Well, not quite. Let's talk about it. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about Hero Killer Stain through the lens of a dramatist perspective. What this means is that we're going to look at this through a lens that helps us determine the motives behind breaking the law, a law that tells people how they should and shouldn't live. This is established by looking at the world as if it were a performance. This was established by a guy by the name of Kenneth Burke. He had a number of different perspectives, but for the purposes of this analysis, we're just going to be looking at dramatist. I look at that word and I think, I'm going to say that wrong, but it's dramatist perspective. So, being a murderer, Stain very obviously breaks a few laws, This isn't he's not like a thief or something. No, he is a murderer. That is obviously against, most worlds, that's against the law. However, it's the motives and the motivations behind these laws that really make Stain stand out in such a unique and interesting way. With all that said, let's get straight into it. So, for the dramatist, I'm gonna keep saying it right, the dramatist perspective, we have two things that we're going to be looking at. The first of these is the dramatist pentad. Now, the dramatist pentad, it's used to sort of break down people and other things into a cycle cluster of terms, as Burke put it. There are 5 parts to this, as the name implies. It's a pentad. I do have to concede very quickly that there is a 6th term that Burke introduced later, but for the purposes of this, we're going to keep it a pentad and just focus on the original 5. So, I'll talk about each one of the 5, and then I will integrate. That I was looking for a word there. Integrate Stain into each one of them and talk about how he fits within all of this. So, the first of these is the act, the what. What has been done? What is happening? All that stuff. What has been done? What is being done? All that stuff. Well, people are being murdered. Heroes are dying. And everyone is sort of on the fritz about these sorts of things. The scene, when and where. Where is it taking place? Well, here's the interesting part of this. The first place where a viewer encounters Stain is a place called Hosu City. And this is where Stain is found when our main heroes encounter him. However, it is very clearly stated that he has been to other cities before this one. Not only that, but it's also well established that the cities that he visited, their crime rates go down by a distinct amount. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but for right now, just keep that in mind. The agent. Who did it? That's the question of the agent. Who done it? That's the third part. Stain, obviously. This ain't like, ooh, he was possessed by some evil spirit or some cop-out like that. No. He did it, and he's also proud that he did it. But again, we will cover that. Agency. How did he do it? His weapon of choice, his number of weapons, actually include anything with a blade. He uses a sword, a bunch of different knives of varying size, and the reason for this is that that's not all. He also has a quirk of his own, a power of his own. That power is something called Blood Curdle. Now, what Blood Curdle does, it's a very interesting and unique power. What it does is that if the hero killer Stain ingests the person's blood, it paralyzes that person for a certain amount of time. The amount of time is relative to the person's blood type, with B being the longest time paralyzed, then AB, then A, then O. Now, there's an interesting theory, I suppose not theory, but it's a form of study in Japan and in parts of Korea, where blood types are actually very akin to your zodiacs. It's sort of like your zodiac sign, whereas your blood type can, if you know the blood type of a person, it can determine how they'll act, what they like, what they dislike, sorts of things like that. Again, akin to zodiac signs. Now, I'll cover this in a second, but B-type blood, or blood type B, the blood type that is paralyzed the longest by Stain, the negative aspects of that are the things that Stain despises, and the positive aspects of O, the type that is paralyzed for the least amount of time, all these positive aspects are things that Stain looks for in heroes. But that ties in perfectly with the why. Why is he doing this? I said before that there are things that he dislikes and likes about heroes, and this is because Stain believes that a great deal of the heroes in the world right now are fake heroes. They are false. They are perverting the idea of the hero because they are simply in it for the money. They're not interested in actually helping people, in genuinely benefiting the environment, the world they live in. They just want the fame, the attention, everything great that comes with being a hero, and not actually contributing and not actually helping society. This is why he takes it upon himself to kill all of those that he deems as fakes. The problem is this does end up getting a lot of people hurt, mostly because in the world of My Hero Academia, being a hero is a profession. It's a job. People do it just to make a living, and the fact that Stain believes this to be a flawed concept is a bit of a dangerous one. He attacks plenty of heroes who most would consider, we're perfectly fine. We're normal heroes. But in Stain's eyes, they were wrong. They were twisting his amoral compass, I suppose. And the reason for this, the reason behind why he believes the things he believes, is because he idealizes and just glorifies the ideas of the main hero, All Might. All Might is the number one hero. He's the best hero in the world. And one of the reasons that many people believe this is because he is a hero who simply enjoys helping people. He does like the fame, and he has been known to be a little bit of, a showboat every now and then. However, his whole MO is just to help people. He just wants to be a good hero at the end of the day, and that's what Stain looks to. Inversely, Izuku Midoriya, our main protagonist, also looks to do something similar. He wants to be a great hero. He wants to just help people. He's not interested in fame or being glorified and all this nonsense. He just wants to help people and just wants to be a good hero. Now, on to that second part, especially since I am already running out of time because I ramble, the guilt redemption cycle. This is something that's very interesting, something that ties directly into Stain. I'm not even kidding here. So the guilt redemption cycle is this idea that everything starts with guilt. Now, guilt isn't the guilt that we think of. It's not like, your baseline standard guilt. Guilt is an all-encompassing word for this cycle. It can mean a lot of things. It can mean regular guilt, but it can also mean anxiety, embarrassment, disgust, or what Stain feels, hatred. Hatred towards those darn fake heroes. Now, the first step of this is order or hierarchy. In society, there is an established order, an established hierarchy that dictates the rule of the world, and this is usually decided through power. This is very apparent in the world of My Hero Academia because, as I said, All Might is the number one hero. He is followed by a man named Endeavor, who's the number 2 hero, who always resented All Might because he's number 1, and Endeavor felt like he should be number 1. It's a whole long spiel there. But like, heroes are ranked in order like that, and the higher up you are, you know, the more fame you get, the more power you get, yada yada yada. Stain hates this idea. He doesn't believe that there should be this sort of hierarchy of power, which comes in the second form, the negative. This is where any person, sees the social order and rejects it and says, no, this is wrong, which is exactly what Stain does. He looks at this hierarchy of power and says, no, this is wrong. There shouldn't be a hierarchy. Everyone who believes in this hierarchy, you're fake. You are a fake hero. Now, the third part of this is victimage. Victimage, this is where things really start getting interesting. This is where a person will try to redeem guilt. There are 2 types of victimage here. First is where we turn the guilt that we have, which again, all-encompassing word, and we turn it inwards. This is called mortification. We apologize, we blame ourselves, it's all my fault, everything's my fault, it's all about the self. The second type is the much more interesting type, and the one that Stain follows, which is where we turn that guilt outwards, and this is called scapegoating. According to Burke, there are 2 types of scapegoating. There's universal and fractional. Universal scapegoating is where the person, whoever the person is, blames everyone for the problem. Blames every single person. It's everybody's fault. Everybody but their own, naturally, but it's everyone's fault. However, there's a second type, which is fractional scapegoating, which is where the person blames specific groups of people or a single person for all the problems that are being created. Stain falls into the latter one of these, fractional scapegoating, because he only blames the heroes who are fake. A prime example of this is actually when Izuku Midoriya confronts Stain. He and a number of the other heroes start confronting him and they get into a fight. However, Stain recognizes that Izuku Midoriya is not in it for the fame or the attention or anything like that. He recognizes that Izuku is simply there to help protect his friends. He wants to save his friends, nothing more. Stain realizes this, sees this in him, and chooses not to kill him. He even saves Izuku later on, which was something that caught everyone off guard. But when you think more about it, it makes a lot of sense. Izuku was everything Stain looked for in a hero, which is why he believed that Izuku was worthy of living in his eyes. Ignore that. Now, the final part of this is the redemption of the guilt redemption cycle. It makes sense that it has to end with redemption. Now, here's the thing about Stain. He doesn't get redemption. At least, he doesn't seek it. Not actively, at least. He never apologizes. He never says that what he did was wrong. He simply goes on and continues to believe that he was in the right the whole time. He was the one with the right idea. He was the one who was doing what needed to be done. He never goes for that redemption, never seeks it, never looks for it, you know? So, it's kind of interesting because this guilt redemption cycle applies so much to him, but he never completes it. So, I suppose that's just something to think about, really. So, what does this all mean in the grand scheme of things? He's got a point, is the main thing of what I want to get at, is that he does have a point. It's not the way to go, killing, especially innocent people, is never the way to go. However, his ideas aren't the worst. A lot of the heroes, I should say, in My Hero Academia, in fact, are just interested in the fame and attention. There's prime examples of that littered throughout the whole show. So, while his methods may have been flawed, his ideas weren't terrible. They were pretty poignant, actually, and really make you consider what it truly does mean to be a hero. But hey, that's just food for thought. Those are just my thoughts. If you have your own, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And with all that said, this has been another episode of Anime Analysis. My name has been That Geek with Glasses. Thank you all for tuning in. I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.